I think we're ready. Jen, thank you very much. It is 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting of council to order and acknowledge that as the city of Winkler, we are situated on Treaty 1 land, the home of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories, but acknowledge that there have been harms and mistakes in the past. But we dedicate ourselves today to a future based on respect of all peoples, including Indigenous communities, in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration, moving forward to a harmonious and prosperous future together. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of May 28th, 2024 be adopted. Mover?
Andrew?
Second?
Marvin?
Marvin? Anything else to add? Not seeing any. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 14th, 2024 be adopted. Mover?
John Fair.
Second?
Peter?
You see them attached there. You've had an opportunity to review them. Any changes or corrections needed? All in favor? Carried. Got one piece of correspondence there, a bulletin for the Manitoba, or My Property Manitoba online portal. I'm not sure if anybody's had an opportunity to run in there and give that an opportunity, a look already. I got halfway through. I was going to get there. I needed to set up an account and needed to do all kinds of other things that became a little bit too much for me. But my understanding is through there, we can get some significant details on our assessments and know what we're looking at.
I think it's a really good idea, and I'm thankful that we got this bulletin, and I'd encourage us to highlight this with citizens, because especially as we think of assessment, appealing assessments and so on, often I think what people think, well, my taxes are too high. Well, this isn't about taxes, this is about assessment that lead to the taxes later on. So for people to understand that, in the past when we've had people appeal, that seemed to be a bit of a misunderstanding often when people weren't able to decipher the difference between assessment and their tax bill themselves. So
It's an excellent point. Thank you, Marvin. Continuing on then into accounts. Be it resolved that accounts payable in the amount of $941,970.01, as approved by the Finance Committee, be approved for payment. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
On Friesen?
As always, the register is attached. Did you see anything there that caused you to pause?
Nope.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that Schedule A of the Traffic and Parking Bylaw number 2283-22 be approved. Mover?
Marvin?
Second.
Andrew?
Andrew got you there, Pete. Again, attached there, you can take a look where those changes are. And I appreciate very much, Jody, that piece there so we know exactly what has changed. Thank you. Any questions or thoughts?
I think a shout out to our staff for being intuitive, responsive to some concerns. I know one of the areas that we considered was, for instance, on Paramount Bay. There was, when you look at a bay, and you're allowed to park on one side for the sake of traffic. We found out that it made a huge difference whether people were parking on the inside or the outside, because of the fact that one area had way more larger driveways, and so that impacted traffic. So for them to be responsive to that, look at that, and come up with a good recommendation. So that is really good for us to have that information.
Particularly in an area that is short parking already. Yeah. So that was a good solution. Yeah. Yep. Not seeing any further comments. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the Boundary Trails Health Center Foundation minutes for November 2023 to March 2024 be received for information. Mover,
Marvin.
second.
Michael?
A fairly robust amount of reading there. Anything there that jumped out at you? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the MSTW minutes and reports for March 2024 be received for information. Mover,
Don Fair.
second.
Don Friesen?
Anything there that we should be aware of, gentlemen?
Well, there's still a lot of large projects that have been carried over and are starting this year, so it's, there's a lot of activity in the commercial, multi-housing renovations. As an example, for April, there was, of 2023, there was 19 permits taken out in the month of April. This year, there were 69.
Wow.
So it's a huge
Wow.
amount of increase in permits.
And staffing-wise, you're still
Staffing wise, we're still good.
good.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover,
Peter?
second.
Michael?
All in favor? Perfect. Jody, if you would take us through the hearing for variance number VA 2024-008 at 19 Rosebud Crescent.
Sure. And we do have 3 public hearings today, so for those of you that have come to participate, I will introduce it, and then the chair will ask for input from anyone who wishes. And if you would like to, we'd ask you to step up to the podium. We do live stream our meetings, and so we want to capture everything on the mic. We'd ask that you state your name and address, and then you can speak to the matter. So yes, first hearing is for variation 2024-008. The applicant is Andre Funk on behalf of owners David Wolf and Elizabeth Wolf. Location is at 19 Rosebud Crescent, and the purpose is to construct an accessory building and maximize the yard space in the R1 zone. And the variance is to reduce the required rear yard from 5 feet to 4 feet. And we have not received any objections to this application.
Thank you, Jody. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this variation? Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this variation? Council, any comments that you'd like to add before we close?
No backdoor neighbors right now anyways, I guess, that can speak to this, so.
On that note, be it resolved that public hearing for variance application number VA 2024-008 be closed. Mover,
Marvin.
second.
Don Friesen?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variation number VA 2024-008.
Don Fair?
Second.
Michael?
Comments? I think one of the key things that I noticed here that helps me with this decision is the fact that variance is not significant, and the fact that the applicant has agreed to reduce eaves in order to make sure that
Yeah.
works. It showed, I believe, that being at the table to try to make it work.
That's good.
Additional comments by anyone else? All in favor? And that is carried. Continuing on then, Jody, to VA 2024-009 at 971 Southview Drive.
Yep, this is a variance application on behalf of the applicant and owners, Mark Entz and Sadie Entz. As mentioned, 971 Southview Drive. The purpose here is to construct a 352 square foot accessory building in the R1 zone. The variance is to reduce both the north rear yard setback and the east side yard setback from 5 feet to 3 feet. And with this one also, we have not received any objections to the application.
Thank you, Jody. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to this project? Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to? Council have any questions of the proponents?
I see there's some sheds right in that same corner. Are any of those ones, do those ones have variances on this that would bring these all close together?
I'm not aware if all of the other ones have variances. Depending on the size, they don't always need permits. And so if they're below 108 square feet, then we don't require a permit, and
Okay.
so we don't know the distances. And some of those look like fairly small sheds that are there.
Yeah. That wouldn't be a concern of ours?
I don't think so. I think that the department is fairly consistent at flagging those type of concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess with a small shed like that, if there were ever to be a concern, that can easily be relocated or moved a little bit. Something like this is not as easy to relocate, so that's why it's important to have that.
And it is 17 feet away from the back deck, so that removes it quite a bit from the house.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing further comments, be it resolved that the public hearing for variation number VA 2024-009 be closed. Mover?
Peter?
Second.
Andrew?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variation number VA 2024-009. Mover?
Marvin?
Marvin got it. Don Fair got the second. Final thoughts? All in favor? And that is carried. Continuing then, and I think one of the things that you have to do is you have to stick around all meeting then. Have a good evening. Jody, the hearing for variation number 2024-010 at 542 Icon Drive.
Okay, this one is applicant Harder Capital Corporation on behalf of owner Johnny Friesen. Location is at 542 Icon Drive. Purpose is in order to construct a 7,498 square foot office and warehouse in the SI Service Industrial Zone. And the variance is to reduce the west rear yard setback from the required 20 feet to 10 feet. And on this one, you will see a report to council, and as well as some recommendations on what to include with the variance approval if council should support that. No objections to this application have been received.
Thank you, Jody. Anybody here wishing to speak to this application?
Can I have a comment?
If you'd come to the microphone.
My name is Dennis Harder, and address is 688 Summerfield Drive. Just to add to that one there, as the planning, through the planning of this whole project, we were working with the Clover Creek Industrial Standards Policy, which the one that we had received on our file still stated at 10 feet. And that's kind of how this whole came apart. But then I understand it has since changed the policy to 20 feet. And now as we were going through this amendment, it was like, oh, we didn't realize. So we were advised to go through this,
Okay, appreciate that. Council questions of Dennis?
Well, I guess that, like you're making reference to it, like the report of council, would you be aware of some of the things that would be requested of you? And
I think the key pieces that.
The conditions.
The
Condi-
conditions
yeah, the
we're looking
conditions.
for would be engineered water and sewer servicing and lot grading and drainage plans. Have you been made aware of those?
I have not been made aware of it yet, but we have submitted, revised all those plans already
Okay.
as part of it. So I mean, I haven't been told anything else yet.
Okay, so that, if those were conditions of approval,
Oh, okay. Yeah, with the variance application, we already had submitted revised engineering drawings for all of that. And
Okay.
the grading and the water sewer, so
Okay, yeah.
I'm assuming that's why I wasn't told that it was, unless there's something new that came out, I'm not aware.
And
No,
I-
it's- don't think it's new,
Please go
right?
ahead. No, I don't believe so either.
No, it's
I think
just,
the main condition there is that, due to the increased size of the building, that there's an increased water connection that's being recommended, and with that comes some additional connection fees.
Okay.
So because of the size originally was quite a bit smaller, I think it was, anyways, it was a smaller line, I don't remember exactly what
I
size.
think it was a 1-inch line.
1-inch line, I think, and it's now going to need a 1.5 inch. And so that will incur some extra fees. And what we do is we use the difference between what the old fees were when you applied and the new fees that have changed since then, so.
Is there anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to this? Not seeing anybody here. Council, any additional questions? I would encourage you, Dennis, as well, to reach out to our city staff and ask for a copy of those, and you'll hear here afterwards, assuming that you're approved, what the conditions would be. Okay? Not seeing further from council, be it resolved that public hearing for variation number VA 2024-010 be closed. Mover.
Michael?
Michael got it. Don Friesen got the second. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that council approve variation number VA 2024-010, subject to city approval of engineered water and sewer servicing and lot grading and drainage plans. Mover?
Peter?
Peter got it. Don Fair got the second. Any final thoughts? All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council reconvene. Mover.
Andrew?
Second.
Marvin?
All in favor? And that is carried. Continuing then into other business, presentation today by Oliver Persina regarding reassessment in 2025, which is quite timely, based on the communication that we had from the province with regards to the other piece, so. Oh, we're gonna let you have this one, Oliver, the floor is yours.
Great. I do have some handouts here. If I can just approach.
Please.
Or we can start this way.
Okay.
I'll just wait till everything's handed out. Again, my name's Oliver Persina. I'm with the Property Assessment Branch out of Morden. And I do this every 2 years, just about. I can't remember what the last time I had to do this virtually, but I can't remember.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, virtually. So it's been a while since I've been in front of council, so I really appreciate the time today. Just to talk about the reassessment.
Keeps going?
I think we're ready for you.
Okay, so we're doing a reassessment for 2025. Notices will be going out fairly shortly. Probably the website's going to be updated today for the city of Winkler. We like to just touch base with councils just to let them know what's happening in their community, just to give council a head up, just in case you do get any questions about the reassessment, why it's happening. Right now, every property in Manitoba will be reassessed for 2025. We're moving from an April 1st 2021 market value to an April 1st 2023 market value. In that case, this report that you have here, I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm just going to highlight certain things. Just to show you what people can expect generally with the reassessment. And also we do some modeling just to help councils identify. Every time there's a reassessment, there's tax shifting.
Right.
And it just kind of helps councils identify what could be happening for 2025 based on the modeling. So page 1 just explains why we do reassessments. We're trying to keep up with market values. I think I've been here before in front of this council where we used to see some pretty big changes overall in the past and some major tax shifting. So I think it's important to really, for you to know in terms of what to expect for 2025. The average increase in the province for reassessment we're looking at is at 13%. Winkler's looking at 9.2. The 13% includes the city of Winnipeg. We're going back to 2 years. This is a 2-year cycle. The previous reassessment was a 3-year cycle. It was just an oddball because of COVID. We didn't know what the market was going to do in the middle of COVID. It was going to be an April 1st, I think, 2020 market value. And I just remember March 12th telling everybody, we're working from home, we're all going home, everything's shut down. So April 1st would have been right at the beginning of COVID. And again, we couldn't predict what was going to happen. Just going to highlight the bigger property classes. And this is averages and this is taxable assessments. So not every property is going to go, for example, single family residential at 9.8%. That's just the average. Some could be more depending on the property type, some could be less. But the average is looking at 9.8. Apartments looking at 12.5%, condos at 13.9. Another big one there is commercial at 7.7%. Pipeline is one at 20.3%. There has been some discussions, and I don't know if anyone from your office here has sat in some of the discussions about pipeline assessments. It's still in the consultation phase. There could be some changes of how we do things in terms of assessment pipeline currently. But I don't think from our modeling it's really going to impact City of Winkler because the amount is pretty small there in terms of taxation. But I'd just like to know, just to let you know that could change, but I don't think it would impact the City of Winkler. Just because there's an assessment increase, and like Marvin just mentioned, you know, the first question I think we mostly get asked is, what's it going to do to my taxes? And just because you saw let's say a 10% increase in your assessment doesn't mean your taxes are going to go up 10%. So page 3 just describes the modeling that we do for 2025. Now we can't totally predict what's going to happen for 2025, but what we do is through our modeling, we take the 2023 budgetary requirements for the municipality and the school division, we apply those the new assessments to it to see, one, what's going to happen where there's tax shifting occurring. So page 4, the table there just shows the taxes based on the modeling and what's going to happen. And I like to stress this is gross taxes. So that's before all the tax credits get applied, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. So in terms of gross taxes, single family looking at a reduction of 0.6%. Apartment looking at an increase of 1.8%, condos 3.1%. Next big one there's commercial at 3.5%, which is the big ones there. Like I say, pipeline amounts to about $2,500 in taxes overall. So about a $183 increase overall for pipelines. So based on the modeling that we have, 1,986 properties would see a tax increase that's like a penny or more for gross taxes, and tax 39, or just over 3,900 would see a tax decrease of a penny or more, kind of a breakdown. Page 5 just identifies just the municipal portion and where the tax shifting is. So in terms of single family, would see the municipal portion increase by 0.6%, apartments at 3%, condos at 4.3%, and commercial at a reduction of 1.4% overall on the municipal portion. Page 6, now if council were concerned about any type of, like mitigating any type of tax shifting, I'm gonna be honest, some of these I don't have a lot of experience. I don't have municipalities in our area that have used these. I know some of them have been used elsewhere, like phase-in increases and decreases. So from what I understand, that's kind of a tax neutral tool. So if you're concerned about properties that were increasing a certain amount, you kind of have to find properties that are decreasing and level them off, so it's tax neutral. That's something you would work not with the property assessment branch, but with the municipal service officer, most likely, if that's the direction. I know some municipalities have taken that approach and used that tool. And it's only for a reassessment cycle, so you have to kind of restart it every reassessment cycle. I'm sure you're familiar with municipal act tax tools like special service levies. I think most municipalities are moving towards special service rather than a municipal at large type. And you can use that tool to kind of distribute taxes evenly. Tax credit programs are seeing more of these, where you can design these very specific to your circumstances. And I mean, it's based on your imagination and what you could come up with and for those things. And the last one is varying property class portions. So in terms of how assessment impacts taxation, each type's property class has a different, what we call portioned assessment. So if a property, let's say residential, was assessed at $100,000, the mill rates are only applied to 45% of that, so $45,000. Farm, it's 26, commercial, it's 65. Let's say, councils do have a way to, or the powers to do that. However, it does take provincial kind of approval or process and regulation. So if it's something that councils were interested, I would suggest start the process early to get that going and to see what kind of impact, if you were interested in going that route. It only impacts the municipal portion taxes. It doesn't affect the school portion, because if you were allowed to do the school portion, you can inadvertently shift taxes, let's say to your neighbor, and you wouldn't make very good neighbors. They wouldn't be very happy with you, so.
So I think this one, we've had that addressed to us before in the past, and a caution that we've been given is that's what you might want to do for this assessment cycle, and then in 2 or 3 or 4 years' time, you find out now it's shifted back, like commercial might have gone down and residential up, and now you're going to shift it back. So constantly playing with numbers that or with percentages just to kind of figure things out.
Yeah.
So I understood, at least at that time, not a lot of municipalities do use this.
I say I've had interest and questions about it, but none of the ones that I deal daily with have used that tool,
Right.
but I've had questions about it. I can understand, because every reassessment, you can't predict what could happen in 4 years. Every reassessment, there could be a shift change, and even in this reassessment, where they're not as dramatic as previous reassessments, where I would say, you'd have to kind of reassess every reassessment. Exactly. What the province is doing for property tax reduction. So I've been talking about gross taxation. So what they're doing for 2024, it's really status quo. The only real difference is that there won't be the rebate checks. It'll be directly off your property tax bill. So people will be seeing that 50% if it's residential and farm, seeing that 50% reduction overall from their gross. On their tax bill. I think anything that's class other, which is usually commercial, industrial, institutional, they'll see a 10% right off their tax bill. That's going to change for 2025. You might have heard in the media where they're moving towards, you'll see on that tax bill, there's that $350 education property tax credit. That's going to be replaced by $1,500 tax credit. I haven't memorized what it's called, so I've got to read it out. It's called the Homeowners Affordability Tax Credit, which is going to be replaced. From what I understand, it's going to benefit about 83% of homeowners based on the modeling. Depends where you are or how much school taxes you do pay. So it's up to $1,500, it's not $1,500. So if you're paying $1,400 in school taxes, the credit's only gonna be $1,400. The other, some of these are income tax based. I don't qualify for them, so I'm not familiar. The renter's tax credit is being increased to $575 for 2025. And I'm not a senior yet, but the top up increases from $300 to $320.57. The education property tax credit, like I mentioned, is going to be phased out. And the additional income, the $200 for seniors over 65, is going to be eliminated, just replaced by that $1,500 flat credit. The senior school tax rebate, again, it's income tested, a maximum of $235. And the Manitoba School Tax Assistance Credit for homeowners, it's currently up to $87.50. That's going to be phased out and replaced by the $1,500 homeowners affordability tax credit. And then for the school tax rebate, farmland school tax rebate, that's something you have to, if you're a farmer, you have to apply for. So you get 40% of your school taxes on farmland that you paid up to capped at $2,500. What we're doing to inform the public of the reassessment, I gave you a sample of the assessment notice. It's just a sample just to see. There's client ID numbers that are specific to an owner. And we're really encouraging people to use and register for My Property MB. So I do encourage you, if you do have any issues, to plug away and get to it. To have access to it is great. We have pamphlets here. They're going to be inserted with every assessment notice. I'd like to leave some if it's okay with your office. Just so that people are aware, we're attaching them actually to door cards. So if we're leaving door cards now, we're attaching the door cards just to encourage people. We want to be as transparent as possible so that people know what they're being assessed for. Values, it gives them the assessment history, what we have, let's say, in your house and what we have assessed, how much basement finish, do we have a fireplace or not, the sizes, everything like that, the age. So we do encourage, we do commonly get phone calls just for insurance purposes, say, hey, when was the house built? So it's all there, so we do encourage people to register for that. The assessment notice will have our toll-free number and to our office in Morden. It'll also have our email. I think more and more people are communicating through email than ever before. So it's kind of a busy, we get a lot of traffic through email. We have the assessment fact sheets now. We have them English, French, and German. And those are all online. We do have open houses. We have the brochure that'll be going along with the assessment notices. We don't have one here locally in Winkler because our office is very close. We've historically had an open house and no one seems to show up. So, but we are doing things like offering virtual meetings and stuff like that that people can talk to in person. Our office is open 8:30 to 4:30 also, that they can stop by. But like I said, the majority now really communicate through email mostly. So that's just a kind of an overview summary of what to expect for the reassessment. I imagine you will get calls to your office. Like I said, the number one question we get is how does that impact our taxes, and trying to educate people what the assessment means is really recognizes what we feel your property could realize if it was on the market as of April 1st, 2023. And I think that's about it for us. So, or for myself, if you got any questions.
How many people do you put on the ground to reassess every property?
We don't necessarily, so we generally have an 8-year cycle to re-inspect property. We're looking to probably re-inspect property again in winter here in the city of Winkler. We did it about 7 years ago. Right now I have a staff of 10 people and 10 assessors, 2 clerks, and we have 1 vacancy that we're trying to fill, so we'll be posting that in June. So we usually have 11 in total, plus 2 clerks.
So it takes you just the winter season to do the whole city of Winkler, or?
Yeah, we're planning to do Winkler and Morton and parts of Stanley.
Okay.
Review.
Get a lot done.
So we are trying to do every 8 years. We're not at 100%. I think we're hitting around that 92% mark. So we're looking at ways that we can, we're trying to look for efficiencies. Like right now, we're looking at tablets for out in the field. Things like that, you know, we're hoping to move towards reaching that 100% that we can. We're close, but we're not quite there. So we still got a bit of work to do.
Other questions or comments?
So with that, are you saying physically visit each site, each roll number?
We do virtual. We can do virtual. We have something called aerial imagery that we apply, and we use the aerial imagery. We can get 3D. It's something we purchase, and we can get 3D imagery of properties, and we look at updating those things. We did that about 7 years ago. We usually try to do an 8-year cycle. We're gonna do 1 year earlier, I think, for Winkler and Morton.
But with that, you wouldn't get, let's say, if my residence was originally an unfinished basement, and I, on my own, without taking permits or anything like that, finished it nicely, how would that ever be captured?
We do other things, we do permits. I know some people, yes, that's the challenge when they don't take out permits. We do inspect and verify every single sale that goes through. We will spot check areas too. So we'll do some areas that we'll physically inspect, but we don't, I would say on the ground, we don't physically inspect every property. Before. I think the last time we tried to do that took us 16 years as in my district. So,
That's why I
you
think
know,
your
yeah,
question
we're
too.
looking at,
That
yeah,
was my question, if you've
yeah,
part of it, but I guess, yeah.
But you
Yeah.
watch like all listings or sales, like you would,
yes,
yeah, so then you know if it's finished basement, you know, you're, eventually it gets caught.
yeah,
Even
The
by the sale
valuation
price.
may be trailing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it catches up.
yeah. So, yeah, we do verify, we have access to Keystone Matrix. Yeah, so, private listings, all that stuff
Yeah.
that we keep track of, yeah.
Can't see through your walls at Marvin, so once they get to that technology, then.
And I imagine that could mean then, you know, so if somebody did that, and registered no changes for 30 years, and that, but had done a thorough everything, and it had been just bare bones, the new owner would, you know, I'd buy a place and I'd say, what was your taxes? And I'd find out my taxes are double.
Yeah.
And you'd say, well, why are my taxes so much higher when you said yours were so low, right? And so,
Yeah, and you know what, I do find agents are well aware too, so if they know that the assessment is out, they forewarn the potential purchaser. So, I've seen that happen.
And in fact, have an obligation to disclose work
Yeah.
that's been done, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oliver, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Well, no, thank you very much for your time. If you do have any other questions that do come up, feel free to contact me, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them, so,
Thank you.
thanks.
This information is always a really good reminder, just to be able to walk through it every couple of years, because it's not something we see every day. And we know invariably, when these come out, that we're going to have questions. We, as council, are gonna have questions, our administration's going to have lots of questions. So to have this refresher is very valuable, and I thank you
Thank
that
you.
you made tonight a
Yeah,
priority.
and I should add, feel free, like, we do encourage people to contact us if they do have any questions. We send out the notices early in the spring for 2025, so it gives us a chance to speak to property owners if they do have concerns, fix things, correct characteristics if we need to, because we see the border revision as a last resort when we can't come to an agreement, so, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That takes us to questions from media or public relevant to this meeting of council. Anybody in chambers with questions? Anybody online with questions? Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned. Mover,
Don Fair.
second.
Peter?
All in favor?